Hi YouTube, welcome to my Sip and Chat. This is a new intro to last week's video when we had all the thunderstorms that kind of wreaked havoc on the video that I dropped hours before. And I just wanted to welcome you with a new intro and say it's weather back here on the East Coast, and we're getting ready for some more really crazy weather from what I hear. I haven't turned on the news yet. So sit back, grab your coffee, take a sip, relax, have some fun, and thanks for being here. See you soon. Bye. Hello, and thank you for being here. And if you're new, and you're wondering what this crazy chick is doing, there's a lot of evidence in the previous videos of what I'm doing. That thunderstorm yesterday, I used to never be afraid of rain or thunder until I moved out to Florida. I lived in Sarasota back in '92, and another sip. I was really nervous about having that coffee shooting live because I'm clumsy. So I lived in Florida back in '92, and I lived in Sarasota, right off the Gulf of Mexico. And Sarasota was not that well developed. It was just starting to get a heartbeat. Let's just put it that way. And now I know that it's marvelous. It always was marvelous. All the keys in that area on the West Coast are just simply stunningly beautiful. And so one of the things that I got on my doorstep one morning was a welcome kit, and in the welcome kit was a map and some push pins and a flashlight and some batteries and a candle. And I'm like, okay, thank you for the welcome. Where's the cookies and stuff? I got this like emergency kit. And my son at the time, Josh, he was 5 years old, and he was very excited about this box being delivered to the house. And what is it? And I opened it up and I'm like, oh, it's a map of Florida, Josh. And, the push pins, after I got done reading all the information, are for, we're going to start early, aren't we? Look, it's upside down. The push pins are for, putting a push pin in the map and, tropical depressions. And I'm like, this is really interesting, Josh. We can do this, me and you. Every morning we'll get up. My mommy makes her coffee. You turn on the TV and you will find on the map where the tropical depression is in the Atlantic, and we'll put a push pin in it. So he's all excited, and he gets his first tropical depression out in the Atlantic. It's early in the year, and you'll understand why. And if you live in Florida, you already know. So he finds his first depression, and we would check it again at night before he went to bed. So every morning he's getting up, and I kid you not, the push pins are going on the map in a line as straight as these drills. It's way out in the Atlantic. And it's just a push pin, a push pin, a push pin, a push pin, straight line. Now the tropical depression has become officially a hurricane, a Cat 1. And I can't remember if they named them at that time, but he's a Cat 1. And my son is all excited, and there are other like little depressions that we're also tracking. So I have this map on my wall, and we're tracking, depressions in the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico. And now it has a name. So our first hurricane is going to be Hurricane Andrew. And my son's excited. All he's talking about is Andrew, like he's a friend. And I don't have the TV on during the day. I just don't. I'd rather listen to music. I'd rather do anything else than watch television. I'm not a reader. My husband's a reader. All the books that you see around my house, like shelves and shelves of books, are all his. If you see a book laying around, it's not me, it's him. So, you know, there was a point where I was like, we need to start taking this serious. And when I moved out to Florida, when I had first got there, I was by myself for a good month. I had left Philly. I had gone out to Florida to set up our living space and unpack everything and get Joshua situated. And I'm like, is this really happening? Of course it is, because I moved here ready for a hurricane, because now the talk was like, it was no longer category 1. Now they were like starting with like the, it's going to be, has the potential to be a 5. Oh my God. And it's just growing. And like, when you're looking at this thing as a tropical depression, and then it's forming into a hurricane, and it's getting bigger. And it, you know, I'm from the 80s, so we had this game called Pac-Man, and every time they would show this hurricane spinning on the weather, it was just getting bigger, and it reminded me of a Pac-Man coming, like this is Florida, and here's the hurricane, and it just looked like it was, of course it was inching closer, but it looked like this spinning thing that was just, if you would have put it over Florida, it was just gone from like the panhandle to the tip of Florida. So I'm starting to panic now at this point, and starting to like really prepare and getting to know the people around Florida and where I was living. I was in a complex, and, you know, lawn furniture is going inside the pool. Anything that you had loose had to be taken in, and it was just a really scary time. And what was really scary was there's so much going on in Florida. Like, you have so much beauty around you and water around you, and everything kind of comes to this standstill. It's kind of like, and I've said this for years, it was kind of like being caught in a painting or a photograph, because everything just stops moving. There's not a breeze in the air. The water looks like glass. It's really frightening. And we're ready to bunker down. There's a shelter, there's a school, and I probably like have blocked so much out, because we were only on the periphery of this hurricane, of this massive hurricane, because it hit McDade County. And just being on the outside of this hurricane, where we were able to bunker down in our own home, and I had people around me, I had friends around me, I had made friends out there really quickly, and, it was frightening. It was so frightening, the sound, and like I said, I was just on the periphery. I was in Sarasota. It was so frightening, and I remember turning on the television that morning, and I'll never forget this, and I'm going to try really hard not to get upset, because it's still so upsetting. Like, yesterday's thunderstorm for me was not a joke. It was like, I have that anchored in my system. Like, Josh and I, being out all the time, we're outdoorsy. We, especially in Florida, like, you get up in the morning and you're just kind of like, do I live here? Do I really live here? It's like a vacation every day. The weather's beautiful until it's not, but we got caught in some pretty massive thunderstorms. It's like the weather in Florida, she's so fickle. It's like she gets up and she's bright and sunny and she's joyful and, yeah, let's go to the beach. And then, like, the next mood is like, no, I'm a little weepy. I think I'm going to cry, you know? And so like, there's like rain over here, but it's not over here, you know? It's in front of you, but it's not behind you. And then it's like, you know, oh, I'm happy again. And then it's like, well, no, I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. And, you know, that's the way I describe the weather in Florida, and like these kind of moods that she has. And I remember turning on the television, and this woman, I kid you not, she was standing in a, it had looked as if McDade County was bombed. She was just standing in timber. Everything was gone. And I remember her just being so traumatized by, she had hunkered down in a shelter, and they brought her back to where her home was so that she could see it, which was terrible. And she broke down crying. She had to be in her 70s. And she was pleading in the camera to her son, please come get me because everything is gone. It was the one thing that is so burnt into my brain. It was just terrible. So, you know, how we got on this discussion was, you know, yesterday's thunderstorm, it wasn't the weather. It was YouTube. And I don't know if this is a new regulation, which is why I was hoping to get on and ask some questions. So diamond art questions. So diamond art questions are, I am coming to the end of this canvas, and I am noticing that I have the rest of this bottom panel to do, right? So I had decided that I wasn't going to, let me see if I can get this in here. I wasn't going to just cut this panel and lift it up and diamond paint this area and then move over to the next and the next. I decided that I was going to put the panels one under the other and then cut straight down, flip it up and work. I'm working this whole side now. So I'm looking at what I have left, and I'm looking at what I have left for my drills. And I'm saying to myself, there are not enough drills in certain colors to complete this canvas. So that's my question. This is a diamond dots painting that I got at Michael's, who was getting rid of what they had so that they can, I would imagine now, push in their own product, which is Make Market. And you know, this was sealed. This was not, you know, something that was discounted and because it was open or anything. It was sealed. I may have even unboxed it, you know, here on YouTube. So I'm wondering, like, is this something that happens where, you know, you don't have enough of the product? Like, that's it for this. I'm done. There's no more. And I still have 1, 2, 3. If I was going to do each block singly, it would have been 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Let me see. 18, 21, 24 blocks. I would have if I was doing this one by one. And this is what I have left. So, you know, I started this craft just on a whim with an order from Temu. I thought, oh, this will be fun. This is something that'll do, that can unwind my mind. And I had one problem with one kit where there wasn't enough black drills. Easy order. I just, you know, ordered it from Drills USA. And that was the only problem I had. The canvas was great. The tact was great. The drills were great. They were beautiful. When I opened Make Market, it was a totally different story. I wanted to do this painting so badly because it was of a Yorkie. My little Yorkie that I had for 19 years passed away. My little baby Honor, and I said no. I'm going to have something made of him, but I found something that I'm going to put the photos up side by side, and you're not going to be able to tell if I had this custom made or not. But I started with a Venice painting that I had seen someone do, not by this company, but it was the same painting. And I said, oh, I saw this. This is beautiful. I'm going to do this. I'm going to hang it in my kitchen. And it was so frustrating. They were so staticky. They were flat. They had no dimension to them at all. They reminded me of nonpareils that you put on chocolate, you know, those little snow caps. That's what they reminded me of. Even the snow caps have more dimension than these had. And I put it away, and I was heartbroken because, you know, I went out and bought this, and, you know, it's now sitting in my closet, and I don't even want to say I'll give it away to somebody because I don't want to frustrate anyone with what I think is not a great quality. But so, I mean, is this something that happens? Is this why, another reason why everyone is so crazy about Diamond Art Club? Because I heard from another channel that I was watching that Diamond Art Club is now making their own drills. Is that true? And they have control now over the quality of the drills, and you know, really standing behind their product, and really being dedicated to, well, yeah, we're not just selling these kits, and they have fabulous artists also. We're now making our own drills. That's what I heard. So is that true? And another question that I had was, this is a lot of work. I really don't know how many drills this is. I need to find that out. I might go into shock, but I need to find that out. But it's so much work, and the drills are beautiful and shiny. To glue or not glue? That was my question. Shakespeare. To drill or not to drill? Which is giving me a flashback of earlier this morning. I was, you know, jumping in the shower. I went to bed at 3 a.m. Did I tell you the whole story about that? You know, I think I did, about what happened. And I hope that the quality of the video, because I had no time. I got up this morning. I ran in the bathroom, turned on the shower. There was a note from my husband saying, oh, my little angel, you were sleeping so soundly. You didn't even hear the neighbors outside. The girls were outside chit-chatting with their coffee in their hands, and you didn't stir at all. You were sleeping so peacefully. I'm like, he should only know I went to bed in a panic at 3 a.m. about this video going up. And so I called him. I was like, don't call me. Do not ring the house phone. I warned him. Don't ring the house phone because you can't get me. I'm fine. So I'm going to find out from, you know, right from the source, right from the people that are, you know, on YouTube, what am I doing wrong here? What happened? And I have some other Diamond Art questions. And so my other Diamond Art question is like, do you glue? So to glue or not glue? And if you do, what do you use? I have some Diamond Art glue that I did buy, and I always have Mod Podge because I do other types of art. And I hear all these things, but I don't hear about what to use to glue down. And so that is also jogging a memory, and tell me if you've seen this or not. I'm going to put a list of these questions so in the description. Tell me if you've seen this or not. Have you seen people take a dropper and put water on their canvas? I can't get an answer from anyone as to why are you doing this? What does it do? Are you wiping off your drills after they get put down because maybe there's a residue? Because there could be, when you use the pink wax and the red wax, there's a residue. And I had talked about the fact that that's why I have this poster tack always in my hand. Because if I see, and I don't have any residue now because I'm actually using the Diamond Daughter putty, and I love it. But there's a little bit on the side here, so like I would use this to like clean off the side a little bit. So, but when I was using the red wax and I would see like these little red dots, I would just use this and just like, so that's a tip for somebody. I would just, you know, go like that and the little red wax would come up. This is loaded with red wax, and like all you do is like you just knead it over. I just felt a little drill in there too. So sometimes if a stray drill is like acting up, or a drill that's broke, there he is. He's in there. He's a green one. This was like a drill that was broke, and I picked him up. My God, I realized that I could actually like almost like dig him back out. Yeah. So, I mean, this is poster tack, or some people call it blue tack, or museum putty. That was really fun to just do that little surgery over here. I put it with my little scrap. So, so we talked about glue. We talked about the water. So I can't get, no matter how many people I've seen, and it's only been about 3, I've seen them put water and put their drills down. And so I can't get an answer. I figure I'll try it myself. So I get a little dropper of water, and I'm like, well, if anything, it magnifies, because you're looking at it through a bubble of water, it magnifies the canvas. And with the wax, when water hits wax, it releases. So I'm thinking, well, maybe that's why they do it. You know, if you have a candle and you, or like a candle holder that you like, and you're going to put a new candle in, put a little water on the bottom so that when the candle burns down, it's time to get rid of it, it'll pop right out. So I'm thinking maybe that's why they're doing this with the water. Still, I have not gotten an answer from anybody. Finally, someone says, well, it makes them stick really tight. And I thought, well, I didn't think that, but I know that if you spill water on here, I'm like, maybe she's just doing a demonstration that if you spill water on here, it'll still be sticky. Need a sip. So I tried it in a very, very tiny section. And I am putting them down, and the wax is not sticking to them. It's okay. Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's great. Until, and I thought, like, I know that this is the section that I'm putting water in, and I'm going to see if these drills stay put. But I had made a mistake, right? Of course. You know, I can't do too many things at one time. I made a mistake, and I went to go pull it up, and it not only, I didn't pull it up. I used my tweezer to take it off. It not only took the drill off, it took all the glue off that was underneath. So if you're going to do this, I do believe that it does help them stick tighter, but be really careful, because if you have to pull that drill up, you can't put another drill down. I literally had to go get a little tiny dot of glue and put it in that little, with a toothpick, put it in that little square and put the drill back down. So I believe that that's why people use water. If you know, and you want to shed some light and fill my brain with some more diamond painting knowledge, I truly appreciate it. Oh, and you know, the gods are always listening. So, I'm really tearing through this painting. And when I did have something on in the background, it was about Vincent van Gogh and about his life, and, you know, all the paintings that he did. And I really want to do a video of, and I think I am going to do it. I'm going to figure out how I can do it. Where it's just photographs of the Barnes Museum. My husband took me to go see Modigliani, and we did, Van Gogh is his favorite artist, and we stopped, and I just love The Postman. I get so emotional when it comes to art. Like, I'm getting teary because I love that painting so much. Not just because my husband works for the United States Post Office, but I love his face. I love his little postal outfit. It's just so, there's a lot of artists that I love, but not many that I've been able to see their work and I was able to see the Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci drawings at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. And I stood, I kid you not, probably a good hour in front of the drawings that Leonardo da Vinci did. And I just wept. I couldn't, I mean, I could not believe this man's mind and what he was sketching, and it was overwhelming. It just makes me so emotional, like everything just gets stuck in my throat. It was just so beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And I have to really download all the photographs that I took at the Barnes Museum, and I'll make that like an homage to Summer with the Masters, because I've seen a few of the paintings that other artists are doing. I know that Rachel Ray is doing the almond tree. It's beautiful, and it's just like, it's so my colors, just like the winter fox. It's so my colors. It's that beautiful French blue with a lot of the golden browns. It's so beautiful, and it looks like it has a lot of AB. I was watching her diamond paint the other day, and I keep forgetting that I'm looking at this upside down, so that's why I'm like, which one do I need now? You know, I was watching her diamond paint, and she was talking about a wedding that she went to in Ireland, and the wedding sounds lovely, but I was so into the piece of art that she was doing, and it was Van Gogh's almond tree, and I think it was one that I have not seen. And talk about things that I've not seen. I mean, I love photography, and I love, you know, one of the things that I love to do, and I have done for years, is take myself on an artist date. And if you know what that is, then you also are a student of The Artist Way by Julia Cameron. And The Artist Way is a 12-step program to embrace your creativity, or get your creativity back, no matter what it is that you do, whether you're a writer, you're a painter, you're a homemaker, whatever it is, to just bring, you know, to create is a gift from God, and what you create is a gift back. So one of the tools of the Artist Way is, I should tell you, and these things happen to me all the time, I should tell you that I found the Artist Way when I had a restaurant in Philadelphia, and right on the corner, I've always been lucky that my restaurants have a bookstore nearby. The Artist Way was on display. I don't know if it was like an anniversary type of why it was on display, but if it was an anniversary for Julia Cameron, it was on display, and I remember gravitating towards the cover and saying, oh wow, this cover of this book is just gorgeous, but not picking it up. It was the weirdest thing. Like, I didn't pick it up, but every time I went into the bookstore, I looked at this book. And it got to the point that when I would pass it, it would fall to the floor. And like I said, it was all over. It was everywhere throughout the bookstore. And if I was like on a shelf, if I was at a shelf somewhere else, it would fall to the floor. Why am I getting so much wax in there? So at the time, the section that I was in I was dealing with a ton of anxiety. And I would be in the bookstore, and I would be in these sections about dealing with anxiety and depression and things that you can do, whether it was like eye movement training or tapping, and all that helped. But that's all you're doing. That's all you're doing. You're just constantly like in a state of, what I need to go take a walk. I need to meditate. I need to do yoga. I need to do my tapping. You know, I had a business to run. So the artist's way, every time I walked in, it just fell to the floor. If I was at the counter and it was there, it fell to the floor. It was like the one time that I was at the counter and it fell to the floor. I picked it up and I just bought it. I was like, okay, you win. You win. Taking you home with me. And that's what I did. I took it home. I put it on a bookshelf and I never opened it. I don't know what it was with this book that I just would not open this book. And I think now, because I've gone through training as a yoga teacher, that if you're not ready to receive something, this is the way that you behave. And maybe, you know, it's love that you're not ready to receive, and so you build the wall up. If it's the job offer, you know, you'll find something wrong with it. You know, like, this is what we do because we're not ready to receive it. And I was not ready to receive this book, but I bought it and I moved a few times, and this book always came with me. It wasn't like, oh, I don't need that. I'm not, you know, I just love looking at the cover, honestly. And so I closed my business because they're redeveloping the area. I moved to New York, and this was a family business. Now, I had, you know, I was in Philadelphia, and my ex-husband and I ran our business. But when you are now in business with a family and a New York family, and I'm a Philly girl, and so, you know, we're just as tough. It's just like, I am in New York. I can be whatever I want to be. I'm out. I can't do this. I can't, you know, come into work and like have to argue with people is before. I just have too much joy in my life for this. I can be whatever I want to be. And one of the things that I used to do when I went to the bookstore was I would always end up in the craft section. And I remember seeing a book, and it was called Rubber Stamp Madness. And I was like, what is that? But the cover was an homage to, oh my God, Alfred Hitchcock. And on the cover was like this scene that was rubber stamped art of a moon that had Alfred Hitchcock's face in it, and like an old house that was supposed to be like the Bates Motel, and a woman running that, you know, the image was the back of Marilyn Monroe running away, like probably from a scene in Niagara, and like a picket fence and birds and all different Hitchcock movies. And I was just fascinated with how did they rubber stamp? Where are these rubber stamps? How do you get rubber stamps of, you know, these images, especially like of celebrities? And that would be Viva Las Vegas. They do celebrity rubber stamps. And I just was fascinated now with this art form. And of course, like diamond art painting, I went out and I just would, you had to mail order, you know, your stuff. Because in Philadelphia, they didn't know what rubber stamp art was at all. You know, to them, it was just like, you know, an art magazine. So I said, when I get to New York, and I was going back and forth to New York because my ex-husband's family lived there, but we were never really going into Manhattan. We were going into Staten Island. I said, when I get to New York, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to find this store. It was called the Ink Pad. It was New York City's only rubber stamp store. And I thought in my mind, like, this store must be huge, huge. And it wasn't. It was on 8th Avenue. It was connected to a newsstand. But let me tell you, it was jam-packed from the ceiling to the floor with anything your heart desired. Paper, any kind of accessories that you needed, tools, rubber stamps everywhere, ink pads, embossing. I mean, you name it, there wasn't anything lacking out of this store. It was a Hobby Lobby crammed into a tiny little store. And I remember being in there and being on my phone, and I was talking about this unusual smell that was being reported through all the boroughs of New York. it smelled like maple syrup. And my cousin is a firefighter in New York. And I had called him and he's like, I went to every borough. I was everywhere last night. We cannot detect where this smell is coming from. And like after 9/11, your nerves are shot. What is this unusual smell? Nobody's giving us an answer. I don't think there ever was an answer, but it just smelled like a house of pancakes. That's what it smelled like through every borough. And that's how I began my stamping career in New York. Anna, the owner, had heard my conversation. I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't be on my phone. And she's like, no. I mean, do you have any information on this? And her and I start talking, and she looked at some of my artwork and she was like, oh, you have to teach for me. And I was like, no, I'm not a teacher. And she's like, yes, you are. You just don't know it. And she was the first person to ever say that to me. The second person was one of my yoga teachers that said, you're going to be teaching here. You just don't know it. And so that's where I was going with the artist way. You are going to be, using this book. This is a lifeline for you. You just don't know it yet. But when you're ready to receive it, you will. And so it was, moving out to New York and just saying ta-ta to the family business. I don't want to do this, not this way. I can be anything I want. And I went on to be an art teacher. I taught rubber stamp art in New York. And I became a devotee of the artist way after carrying this book around with me from 1997. I didn't open it until 2005. Right. So 98, 99, 2000. So 8 years later, and 8 is such a signature number for me. If you turn it on its side, it's an infinity sign. It is my email, 8, Elisa Maria 8 at Gmail. It is, my husband had a keystone made for our home and with our names on it. And in the middle is the infinity sign. So it's a very important number to me. So 8 years later, I am opening up the Artist Way, and I am hooked with this 12-step program. And I was overjoyed and excited to see Julia Cameron 3 times while I lived in New York. She came to the New York Open Center, and I just sat in front of her, just sat in front of her and stared up at her. She's another one. Her creative ability to say something with words is so touching and profound to me. I love words. And it was Anna also, Anna from the Ink Pad, that turned me on to journaling. There was a seminar that she wanted to do, a workshop that she wanted to do, and she was like, Elisa, please come with me. Nobody wants to come with me. I love words, and I think that you would love this too. I'm like, no, I'm not a writer, but I went for my friend, and we did Journal to the Self. And again, hooked. I love this book. It's a tiny little book. And so if you're thinking, I'm not a writer, I'm not a journaler, the Artist Way is intense. The Artist Way is, you get up every morning and you write stream of consciousness, longhand, no abbreviations, front and back, 3 pages. And let me tell you, that just siphons off everything that is going on in your brain that is just like all the junk. It moves that all out of the way. You could just write, I don't want to do the laundry today. I don't want to go to work today. Whatever it is, you don't think about it. It's not high art. It's just what is floating around in your brain, and you siphon that off. Journal to the Self is writing exercises, and they're fun to do. And that is what really propelled me. Both those books came about at the same time into writing. And my husband left me a note this morning. I know I said that. And that's because we've known each other our whole lives, but didn't really dive into who we were as people until we started to date. And I always have a journal on me everywhere I go, whether it's a pocket journal, it doesn't matter. I'm always capturing the moment and writing things down. I'm not one of these people with a phone that's like, I want to like, take a snapshot of this. I'm writing. And he knew that, I would write and scratch things out on paper and draw and sketch. But it wasn't until I moved out of my old home, I went through a divorce during the pandemic, that the one thing that I went to go grab were my banker boxes full of my journals. And he was like, oh God, this is heavy. What is in here? And I'm like, my journals. And he opened it up, and I journal in a composition book. And I think that's another thing that prevents people from writing. We go out and, we go and buy the glass pen, and we're going to dip the ink, and we're going to buy this beautiful journal, and we're going to write. And no, just get a composition book. And the first composition book that I filled with my everyday life, which was in New York City, I had a cafe that was across from St. Anthony's Church on Sullivan Street. I actually would escape to the church because it's quiet. And I would sit there and write. And then I would open the door, and then he would hear all the racket of New York City. And sometimes I would just go close the door again and go sit back down again and like meditate. And that's a little secret of mine. Like, if you're in New York and you need some space, go to a church, go to a temple, go sit down. It's very quiet in there, and it's very nice, and it's very cool, and it's, a place to get yourself together. So he's carrying these banker boxes, and he's like, your journals. And he opens up the lid, and he sees like one composition book after another lined up in these banker boxes. And the next day, I'm gonna sip. He wrote me a 4-page letter, front and back. And he said, I knew that you wrote every morning, but I didn't really get how important this is to you. Because I would say to him, I'm going to go write, do you need anything? He'd be like, no. And then as soon as the pen hit the paper, you'd be like, can you tell me where this is? And I would just look at him like, because when you're doing stream of consciousness writing, it's kind of like waking up from a dream. When you're writing and your hand is just going, you really can't be interrupted. And then, so we had to have a talk about that. But it wasn't until he saw my journals that he was like, oh my God, like, this is really a big, big deal for you. I'm like, yes, it is. So he finally got it. And so being that it is so important to me, he now said, I want us to do this. I'm like, well, yeah, sure. I'll get up with you in the morning, and I'll journal with you in the morning before work. I think it would be great because you have a high stress job and it causes you anxiety in the morning. And yeah, let's write together. And that's not what he meant. We did that for a while, writing together. But for me to be quiet and sit still is not a problem. For my husband, it is. So he's too antsy. He's always doing something else other than what he's doing. He has that neurodiversity. Yeah, he latched onto that word real quick. That's his excuse for everything now. Well, I'm neurodiverse. Yeah, okay. And as a yoga teacher, I know that you cannot multitask, which is why the TV's not on for me, because I can't pay attention to the television and do this. I like to be immersed in what I'm doing. I like to be in the experience of what I'm doing. So I don't allow myself to get pulled into anything else. This is what I'm doing. This has got my attention. And it is a practice, because then you're like that with everything. When you are, food shopping to listening to someone talk, that's what you're doing. I don't like when I have given someone my time, and time is one of the things that I value, probably just as much as I value my own life, because it is my life. I don't know how many more, seconds I have on this little marble that we're spinning on out in space. So when I give you my time and we make plans to do something and we're, you know, sitting down to a meal and, you know, I don't like when people are on the phone or they're, you know, and I don't mind if you take pictures of food and stuff. Listen, we all have blogs today. We all have, you know, content that we're looking for. And especially with me, I'm such a foodie, you know, being in the restaurant business for so long. And I did all our graphic design and artwork and menus and stuff. And everything for me had to be like spot on when I was doing that work. And so like when I go to a restaurant that I love and, you know, everything is, again, you know, spot on, you know, I have no problem taking my time, taking pictures, because I just want everyone to do well. I know what it is to be in this business, and I know what it is to, it's your heart and soul. And so I have been recognized in restaurants, and people have told me, you know, I'm here because I read what you wrote on Facebook. I have a public Facebook page because when you have a business, you need to be public. So, yeah, so, but I don't like when people are texting at the table. I don't like it. It's like, you know, are you here with me right now? But that's just my personal preference. You know, I would love to text my son too and be like, oh, you got to try this place. You know, but I'll tell him about it the next day when I'm sitting down with him and he's got my attention. And, you know, it's a way of just also making those that you love around you feel special when you are listening to them intently and you're not distracted. Listening is an art that, you know, if you can bestow that on someone and, you know, not be distracted by what's on your phone, it's a beautiful thing, you know. And being a yoga teacher and having people say to me or confide in me things that are going on, like, hey, you know, I know we're getting ready to go into class, but this is what's going on. You know, maybe I'm not feeling well. Maybe I'm pregnant. Maybe, you know, I got injured and I don't want to announce it to the whole class, but I'm telling you. Or maybe I'm going through a divorce, you know, whatever. I've heard everything. And that's because I'm a good listener. And it would always just make my teaching so much better because I would be able to bring something to the class and that person knew that I was speaking directly to them without everybody else knowing. So, if I can impart anything other than my diamond skills, yeah, be a good listener. Be a good listener. And it is a practice. And one of the books that I love, there is a book called The Art of Listening, but one of the books that I love, I mean, I love it so much the spine is cracked and pages are starting to fall out. And I heard that Barnes & Noble will take a book that you love and it will bind it for you. And I think I might go in and have them do this for the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. And it's just a daily read, you know, 1 page per day of it just unfolds like a beautiful song. That's the best way I know how to describe it. Starting from January 1st and just the human experience of being on this earth in this form, and being able to receive so many things, so many gifts, and make you aware of all creatures, big and small. And it's like a page. He is such a beautiful writer. Oh God, I love Mark Nepo. If you love him, please leave a comment because we're going to be best friends. If you love Julia Cameron, please leave a comment. And if you do the artist way, or if you're curious and you want to ask me any questions, because like I'm asking you guys a bunch of questions, and I'm going to outline them in the description, like what the questions are. So like maybe you can go right to that part. I don't know how long that's going to take me. I have big ideas all the time. I have big ideas. And as I'm putting my drills in, it's so funny. As I was, you know, jumping in the shower, getting ready, thinking I was going to go live at 10 a.m., Salt and Pepper was on the radio singing Push It. Push it real good. And I kept, you know what I was thinking about? My drills. Push it. Push it real good. And like every time I'm pushing a drill down, I'm like, because it's difficult to see, I'm holding this up. I'm thinking of Salt and Pepper. Yep, this is the background noise of my life. And then the next song was You Shook Me All Night Long. And I was thinking of my drills again. Because I do this before every time I open up a drill, I do that. And someone is at my door. And so I'm going to bid you adieu. It's an hour. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for answering my questions if you do. And I look forward to spending more time with you. Have a good Saturday. Bye.